Hi, I'm Alexander Maxim from Ethiopian.io. Today we will continue our series about PHP. In this tutorial, we'll learn the errors. So an error is defined as anomaly in the application. So we can say that there is an error if the program doesn't work as it was designed. During the development, an error can come, for example, from the non-respect of the syntax of the language, a bad configuration, etc. It can also be an error in the algorithm itself. So our code can generate, for example, negative value prices or something like that. This drives us to be very careful during the design phase. From error detection and from information to the correction of these errors, PHP offers us the possibility to better manage these errors. Today we will see the die method, creating a custom error handler, trigger an error, and the use of the exceptions. Let's start with the die method. What's the die method? So to handle the errors, we can use the function die. The word die in English does to say a thing was live and it blocks it dead. It has no effect now. If you apply this rule to the errors, if you have an error using the die function, we will display a message and we will stop the script execution. The most used example is the fopen function. If there is an error in the file, or we can say if we can't open this file, it will return an error that will derange the user. For that, we will manage it and display a simple message and understandable message. Let's see now an example to understand the die method. In this example, we will use the function exists and we will pass the function name. So this function will check if the function exists and return a boolean value or an integer value, true or false. So we will pass a function in our page, and this method or this function will check if the function that we have passed as parameter or if the name of the function passed as parameter exists in our page or no. So it will return a boolean value true or false or an integer number 0 or 1. In this example, we have the function just print. I will use echo in this function to print it from the function just print. Then I will call this function, but the function is just print, and I will enter the letter F inside the name of this function. So we haven't this function here. We have just print, but we haven't just pref int. The PHP will return a fatal error. So call to undefined function just pref int in this file on this line. This is the error returned, or the fatal error returned from PHP. To solve this error or to handle this error because it deranged the user, we will use the die method. How to use the die method? This method accepts the message that will be displayed to the user. So we will check if using the function exists. If the function exists, and we will pass this name of the function. For example, you have just print. I will change it to just pref int. So I will pass undefined function. Then I will call it. Else I will use the die to stop the script execution and to return a message or an error message to the user. So it will return function and with the color red, not found. So inside in our page or to the browser of the user or to the page in the user, it will return function not found. So don't disturb the user. This is the die method. So to handle the error, because this error with this forma, for example, call to undefined function just in this file on this line, it will return some informations to the user, to the place or to the path of the file and the line, etc. For that, I will handle the error and I will return just a simple message to the user, which is the function not found, or we can say for the developer to test if this function exists or to see something in the page. And after that, we have creating a custom error handler. To create a custom error for an error occurs in your site or your application, PHP offers a very efficient idea. That's the custom error handler. As we have already said, the errors will be disengagement for the user and your application. For that, we will see how to create a custom error and also how to display it with a simple message or something as you want. To create an error, you must use a function. You can specify the name of the function as you want. This function accepts 5 parameters, 2 that are very important and 3 that are optional. So the first parameter is the level of error, that is a number. We'll look at the error levels. And the second parameter is the message, thus the message that will be displayed in the page for the user. The third is the file name or file path, where we have the error, and the fourth is the line where we have the error, and finally the context, that's an array. We will see an example to understand all of them. After that, we will use the function error set handler that accepts the function that we created to execute this function if there is this error. Let's see now the different levels of errors. The type of an error is represented by a PHP constant. Let's start with the first error, which is informative message. The constant is a_notice or e_notice. This type of errors for informational purposes, so it doesn't matter much. For example, we encounter an error of this type when the script tries to access a value that hasn't been declared. For example, the error doesn't disturb the rest of the script but informs the developer of the problem. The second, which is alert message, warning. The warnings don't interrupt script execution. It simply indicates a problem that was intercepted by the script before. And the third is critical errors, error. In the case of a critical error of type error, the execution of the script is interrupted. This is an error that can't be ignored. For example, when an important feature cannot be executed. And we have syntax errors, parse. When there is a problem interrupting the script, PHP produces an parse error. This is syntax error in the files that are designated parse error. This error prevents the parse PHP from reading the code and interpreting it. It can be, for example, the omission of a semicolon at the end of an instruction. And we have PHP internal errors, constants, core error, and core warning. The errors core error and core warning are similar to the error and warning, except that they are generated by the PHP code. In other words, they are errors that don't necessarily come from PHP. Functions should not generate this kind of error. And we have compilation errors. We have the compile error and compile warning, and we have also the user errors, which is user error and warning notice. These errors are comparable to error, warning, notice, but they come from our script using the trigger error function allows it to be processed. And we have all. Using this level of error reports causes all error to be displayed. Let's see now the example to understand how to create a custom error handler. So when we use echo 2 divided by 0, we will get a warning division by 0 in this file on this line. To solve this problem or to create a custom message or a custom error to the user to be displayed to the user, we will use a function with 5 parameters or 4 parameters, and we will use the set error handler. So the first parameter of the function is the error number or the number of the error. Then we have the error str, which is string of the error or the message. In this case, division by 0 is the message or the string of the error. And we have the error file, which is the file in this error, and we have error line, which is the line of the error, and we will pass it to the set error handler with the name of this function. For example, here with the set error handler, I will set an error handler, or I will create a custom error is division by 0. So when we search, we will find the function division by 0 with 4 parameters: the error number, error string, error file, and error line. Then I will use echo to print to the user a custom message or a custom error. For example, in this case, error, and with the error number and the error string in the error file online error line. Then I will use echo again to print 2 divided by 0, and it will return this error. So the error with the red color, because here we specify that the color or the style color red, and the message which is the error string division by 0 in this file on this line. So we can specify this message to the user, or we can display elements and cache the others. Let's now see a real example for the die method and for the error handler. So we have the function just print. I will use echo to print printed from the function just print. Then I will call this function which is just print, and let's reload and see the result. And we have printed from the function just print. When we enter, for example, f here or something like that, we will get fatal error call to undefined function just print in this file on this line. So I need just to print, for example, this function not found or something like that. We will use the die method. So I will check if the function exists, and the famous example in the sites and for this method is the fopen. I have now the function exists, is the same idea. So I will check if this function exists or not. If we haven't this function, I will set the function not found. So I will print firstly our function which is just print, and we have printed from the function just print. And when we change it, when we change the name, we will get function not found. If we use echo to print something after the die method, like hi for example, we will get nothing because the die will stop the script execution. So when we use echo 2 divided by 0, let's reload and see the results, and we have warning division by 0 in this file on this line. I will now create a custom message or a custom error. Let's see how we can do it. So we have the function division by 0. We have 4 parameters: the error number, error string, error file, error line. Before explaining it, let's see the set error handler, and we will pass the error or the name of the function to this method to trigger, or we can say to apply or to execute this function when we have this error, which is the division by 0. Inside, I will use echo to print the error with this formula: the error number and the error string, error file, and error line. Let's save, reload, and see the result. And we have error. The code is number 2 because each error has a number. For example, this is a warning. The message is division by 0 in this file with this line. I want to display just the division by 0, just the message, not the file and the line. And for that, I will delete them like that. Let's reload and see the result, and we have just error 2 division by 0. This is how to create a custom error handler. After that, we have trigger an error. How to trigger an error? To trigger an error in your page or your application, PHP gives us a trigger error function. This function accepts 2 parameters. The first parameter is the message that will be displayed. The second parameter is the level of the error. We have 3 levels: e-user error, e-user warning, and e-user notice. And we can trigger the error, but we must first create the error or specify the error as the example we have already done. It's a bit difficult. Let's use an example to understand it. So to trigger an error, we will use the trigger error function to trigger the error with the error level. So the example that I want to use is the age. I will trigger the error if the age is less than 18. I will use the age error function, and the set error handler to set the name of the function, which is age error, as we have already done in the previous example. So I will check if the age is less than 18. I will trigger the error because it's a special error for my site. If 2 divided by 0, PHP will trigger the division by 0 error, will directly and automatically trigger this error from PHP, because we have 2 types of errors. We have the type which is for PHP or errors, and special errors of your site. So I will trigger an error. The message of the error, like for example, when we use 2 divided by 0 is division by 0 here, because it's a new error for my special site, for my application. I will call this error your age must be greater than 18, and I will use user warning. I will pass it to the set error handler with the name of the function, which is age error. So the age error will just print or will form the error that I want to display to the user with the parameters. So we have here 5 parameters with the context parameter. I will use echo to print the error with the error name, the error the error number, the error string, the error file line, and the error context, or the value that the user entered. For example, here the age is 15, so I will also print this value in the context parameter in this function. So the returned message to the user will be like it, the error, which because it's user error, so the code of this error or the number is 512, and the message that I have mentioned here, your age must be greater than 18, and the file is this file with this line, and the age or the value entered by the user is 15. Let's see a real example to understand it. So I have, if the age is less than 18, I will trigger an error as I have mentioned and as I have explained. So there is 2 types of errors, like the division by 0, it's by default. If we have 2 divided by 0, it will be triggered, and here I will trigger the error if the age is less than 18. I will say your age must be greater than 18, and I will pass the user warning to the error set or to the set error handler function with the name of the function here. Then inside the function I will form the error as I want. I have 5 parameters: the error number, string, file, line, context, and I will print this format. Let's reload and see the result, and we have your age must be greater than 18 in this file. The line 30, because here we have the trigger error, and the age is 15. Let's, for example, say the age is 20 and we have nothing here. But if the age is 17, we will get your age must be greater than 18. This is how to trigger an error. After that, we have the use of the exceptions. Currently, you know, fatal errors, alerts, errors, or notices. We will discover a different way to handle errors. We will in a way create our own type of errors. Exceptions are quite different errors that don't work the same way. As you will see, this new way of dealing with errors is quite particular. When throwing an exception, we must throw an instance of the exception class. This launched object will contain the error message as well as its code. Remember to specify at least the error message, although this is optional. I personally don't see the point of throwing an exception without specifying the error encountered. For the error code, it's not for new very useful. You're free to specify it or not. The third and final argument is the previous exception. Again, specify it if you wish, but it's not essential. To know the exception, we will use the throw function with the message that will be displayed in the page for the user. Let's see an example to understand it. So we have the exception class. If you have learned the classes and the object-oriented in other languages, you can understand the notion of class, and you can understand the notion of new exception or the name of the class, and here we have created a new object. We will learn the classes and objects in the next tutorials. Now we have for the user this question: 3 plus 5 equals to what? The user, for example, will enter 6. I will use the function test robot to test if this person is a robot or not. And for that, I will give it the value entered by the user. The value is 6. So if the test robot has the response as a parameter, I will check. If the response is not equal to 8, I will throw, or I will trigger, let's say, throw new exception with this message. So as we have learned how to trigger an error, we have here trigger new exception, because we have two types of errors. We have errors for PHP and special error for the site, like the age. We have here the test of the robot. If the user entered, for example, something not 8, he will get your response is incorrect with the exception, and we can specify the format of the exception, and we will learn it in the next tutorial. Let's now see a real example to understand it. So you have 3 plus 5. I will test the robot with the number 6, and I have the function test robot. If the response is not 8, I will throw new exception. Your response is incorrect, for example, like it is incorrect with the same color. Let's reload and see the results, and we have fatal error, uncaught exception with the message your response is incorrect in this file with this on this line, etc. All this information. So we have the exception when the response is not 8. So we can trigger an error or use the exception in our site because it's special for our site. Today we have learned the die method, how to create a custom error handler, how to trigger an error, and the use of the exceptions. In the next tutorial we will learn the exceptions.